where proliferations wanted to escalate out of shape and threatened to split the screen. It was my Buddhist job to frame that monstrous, infinite flesh and cut it into pieces that something the size of the mouth can take in, as Clarice Lispector writes. The filmic viscera needed pickling and soaking, and some of it admittedly stayed indigestible. Still, all of the work was undertaken for you, the other, the witness, to savor the delicate conspiracy of practice and theory. The methodological thread unfolds between poiesis and poetics, the factual and the lyric. In the relational field that choreography entails, we attend to a movement between immersed and distal perspectives, organized around encounters and the trading of affects. I situate the bare body underneath the biopsychosocial dimension, and with this proposition, choreo-ethics become axiomatic in respect to the value and dignity of being human, across and beyond post-human frameworks. This provides the grounds for the suspension of demarcations of the subjective, proposing instead a rooting in the profundity of bodies, accounting for their mobile and fluid nature. I draft bare bodies as individual and in constant becoming. Not merely a relational structure, dance emerges as enfleshed experience in the spirit of condividuality, or crystallizes into embodied choreography, be it as choreographed movement, language, or any other materiality. These are the resonances and residues of encounter and movement that sedimented into spheres, memories, future potentialities. Calling choreographic manifestations partial enunciators, a term coined by Guattari, I have a tool at hand for mediating the dynamic relational structure of the desktop performance. The togetherness of partial enunciators in their interplay of parts forms a field of force, attending to connective sensibilities, uncovering the agency and mattering of bare bodies. Through undoing subjectivity, a shift towards non-subjective performativity evolves. The hammer is a manual tool that in mutual objectifications might be read as destructive. However, if we affirm that tools are neither durable substances nor set of relations, but actually constitute from some of each, therefore substances that form relations and vice versa, then the entangling of juice on the hammer is actually the resonance of an intense encounter, a squeezing and reciprocal making of an occurrence, all objects confronting one another. peace activist and anarchist Emma Goldman speaks about practicalities and impracticalities of anarchism. She emphasizes the connection between practice and vitality for overcoming stagnancy. She argues that anarchism is indeed practical more than any other idea. It is building and sustaining new life. In that light, in order to render encounter, affect and response perceivable as materials for sustaining new choreographies, one needs to understand the transmogrified performative intimacy particular to contemporary performance and expanded choreography. Impersonally intimate differs from private or social forms of intimacy, or, as the performance artist Karen Finlay has it, establishes a different kind of intimacy. This form of transmogrified intimacy between bodies emerges exclusively in the form of artistic live performance and opens up the potential for an experience of corporeal co-presence and human consciousness unique to this mutual shared cultural agency. The format of a desktop performance challenges all of these assumed givens. Consequently, our creative practice expanded towards practices of choreographing bodies and words, objects and sounds in the 13-inch size that my screen provides. Narrations of bare bodies formed along the relational axioms of being in contact, encounter, and resonance. Cultivating contact as ethico-philosophical project means the presencing of the one as relentlessly orbiting towards the other. The zueinander, to one another, becomes the stipulation for performative encounters and configures the passage between us. I introduced the ideation of anarchic responsibility, which might easily be dismissed as rebellious or untamed, even adolescent, intervention into cultural practices. But I mean it, seriously and in a scholarly sense. My argument for anarchic responsibility rests on the dismantling of hierarchies in order to unearth and cultivate liabilities that are differently organized, not necessarily by policing rules and regulations. Instead, thrown togetherness becomes the common purpose. It brings performer and witness together for exploring associative as well as the central potentialities of choreographed encounters. Doreen Massey claims a politics of negotiation, not just for the human, but for a broader ecological contemporaneous coexistence. On the grounds of such argumentation, I elaborate with the desktop performance non-subjective performativity beyond the human body. In the field of tension between poietic apparatus and human poetics, connectivities arise. The second ideation I propose today is the neologism choreoethics, which emphasizes the space of the how. Artistic works in which the encounter is pivotal propose composition that choreographically frames how we, meaning all things and beings, relate to each other. With this proposition, ethics are set in motion. In Greek, choreia, dancing, and ethos, disposition. Choreoethical praxis works with the body. The body is not subject, object, or artwork, but instead becomes the instrument, or in Heidegger's sense, the tool, for generating a new sense of self through others by creating a joint body. This mutual entanglement as vibrant matter obviously happens for anyone engaging in the process. Lydia Clark understood herself as an initiator of processes, a conception of art which also proved to be useful for my own thinking around the desktop performance format that we prepared for today's Care, Dare, Share. The desktop, in that sense, creates a space for rehearsing and challenging both of our propositions, anarchic responsibility and choreoethics. In his essay, An Introduction to Metaphysics, Henri Bergson distinguishes two profoundly different ways of knowing a thing. The first implies that we move around the object. The second, that we enter into it. The choreographer Deborah Hay was asked, "Is dance political?" Her answer was, "Dance is my form of political activism. It is not how I dance or why I dance. It is that I dance." My ongoing commitment to dance and choreographic practice, in its expanded and relational notion, announces encounter to be an experience of the liminal arising between bodies and acknowledges the gravity of nanopolitical acts of bearing awe.